I did think it was one of our better performances. I mean, I think that goes without saying. And the reason I say that as far as why it was better, obviously the turnovers, we created turnovers, we got the turnovers, and that's a huge part of the game. We also played a more consistent game throughout. We pulled the trigger at times on some things and made some plays that was very helpful, to our overall performance. So yeah, I feel better about it. Along the way, all we've been trying to do is build on the positives that have occurred. Obviously, in this game last week, there was more positives than there had been in any other game. So again, that's the difference. I don't think we did. As a matter of fact, I know we really haven't done anything different in the last month and a half, other than we've just continued to try to build on the things that were positive and continue to try to get better. That was really it. It wasn't like we did some magical thing last week. We've had good practices for over a month. There's good energy in the practices. I will say that I thought last week was probably the best as far as the least amount of errors in practice, things like that. Every team has errors in practice, but you're always trying to minimize them and have them as clean as you can. It usually shows that your team is better prepared. So that when you minimize those, it helps. But that would be that.
And with having Leighton back in there, do you see how is he progressing? And in addition to his ability that he brings to the defense, is that helping with the coordination some in your mind?
Well, there's no question to get him back is a real shot in the arm for us, and it helps us because he's a very good football player, as you all well know. And and I think it goes without saying, the fact that we have him back is a real plus. We'd like to keep him, obviously healthy, and but again, yeah, there's everything about him being back is a positive for us.
Can you talk about Trevon Diggs' game last week, his ball skills, and the challenge he faces going against his Steelers passing game?
Trayvon played well last week. There were some plays I'm sure he'd like to have back. There was a couple opportunities he had outside of the ones he did have, but look, he had a winning grade without question. When you get two turnovers, and in particular the ones that he got, were both just great finishes to the play. I mean, a lot of guys would just stop and not go across the field on the one, but he kept traveling. Ended up getting over there and made a great interception in the end zone. The other one that he caught in the end zone and brought out was another just an opportunity. He could have stopped short on that because the ball appeared to be overthrown for the wide receiver, which it was, but not for Trayvon rather. And so he made the play. So again, I thought the finish for his game was very good. Going forward, this week, every week is a new challenge. The wide receivers we face this week are very, I would say, comparable to what we have on our football team. And what I mean by that is they've got they've got 3, 4, 5 guys that other teams would even like to have. And so they got great depth at the wide receiver position. They've got a very good quarterback, probably a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben. And Ben does a great job of feeding all those guys the ball. So we've got our hands full, obviously, overall, not just Trayvon, but the whole group on the back end.
And DeMarcus Lawrence appeared to have his best game of the season against the Eagles. That's just another example of him being more comfortable in what you guys are asking him to do.
I think that's a good question for him. I'm not sure. He was very active in the game, made a lot of plays, did a really good job. He's had great energy. He's extremely positive on and off the field, in the meetings. He has been the entire time. I mean, he's been a real asset to us, in the things that we're doing. He's as they all do, we always listen to him. He's had input on some of the things that we've done. Some of the things we've tweaked and adjusted. I think that's important for any defensive staff and players to listen to your players and see what things that they feel they do well and what overall we can do. So he's been very pleased with his performance as well as his input.
Mike, you mentioned that Trayvon had a winning grade, but also probably some plays you'd like back. How do you go about coaching a rookie like him, sort of weather the ups and the downs?
That's a great question because I think when you're a good corner, and much like an offensive left tackle, there are ups and downs in your performance. And what I mean by that is you're typically going against really good players. If you're left tackle, you usually have the best pass rusher against you. If you're a corner, as in Trayvon's case, we usually put him on someone who we feel is the opponent's best receiver. And in some cases, we're not able to do that. For example, Pittsburgh's a great opportunity to maybe put him on somebody, but on the other hand, they've got so many good ones, it's a whole nother, you get a whole nother problem. But he just, look, at weeks to week is a little bit different for him in some ways, but look, I expect him to continue to perform well and continue to get better as we go forward. I think his mental makeup takes care of that. To answer your question, is how it's handled more than coaching. Although coaching helps, don't get me wrong, but when you're built like he is, I think having the ability to forget and move on to the next play, or just not allow it to hang over your head, that's a great quality to have as a corner, and I believe he's got that.
Sean Lee played just 4 snaps last week. Was that limitation? I mean, were you planning to limit his snaps, and what do you think he can do going forward for y'all in the game plan, or how do you envision his role on this line back and forth?
Going into the game, we'd hope to get him more snaps than that. We came up short on that. I think that was an error on our part. And this week it will be the same. We'll try to get him more snaps than that. And so hopefully that's what I believe that's what will happen this week. How many is the game will dictate that. But we're excited to have Sean back. And like I said, I think the 4 snaps he got was considerably less than what we had hoped for.
Mike, you were asked a little bit earlier about Leighton. With his ability to kind of cover up lanes in the passing game and also defend the run and maybe rush the quarterback, how valuable is he as a guy this week in facing a Pittsburgh offense that can kind of do a little bit of everything with the running game as well as find different levels in the passing game and to succeed?
Look at Leighton is a very good football player. He's got a lot of things that he can do in the game, whether it's pass coverage, whether it's run defense, whether it's even blitzing. He had a blitz in it with a sack fumble last week, so he can do a number of things, much like Jalen can. But I think for Leighton, from my point of view, and I think from the defensive staff, he missed a good, 4 or 5 games. I know it was 4 at least, because in the opener he only played about 10 plays, I think, before he went out. And so thus far this year, in the things that we're doing, he's only had about probably 2 full games, or maybe a little bit better than that. So going forward, I think he's still just getting comfortable, just playing again, whether it was in this scheme or any scheme, even the old scheme. There was a little bit of training camp, but I'm just saying I think it's more of a case when I think about Leighton and where he's at, where he's going to go. I think it's just a matter of just keep playing, and he's just going to keep getting better and get back to, or I shouldn't even say get back to, but I thought last week was a good performance from him. I thought the sack fumble was a very big play in the game, and so like I said, that's what I hope that he just continues to get in the swing of things with the more reps he plays.
And then with Roethlisberger, he's been a guy that will hang in the pocket and wait to make plays. How does that open up things for your pass rush? And is he still a guy that will be patient back there in the pocket to try to let things develop down the field, or is he getting rid of it quicker than he has in the past?
Look, Ben's the best of both worlds. He's the number 1 quarterback as far as least amount of time it takes to throw the ball. Number 1 in the NFL, and he is. But yet he has the ability to be patient and let things uncover down the field, like you just said. So that kind of spells it for spells it out as far as the challenge it is to play Ben. He is a big, strong man. He's always been that. Probably not as mobile as he was as a young man, but who isn't? But he's smarter than he was as a young man too, as a football player. So it kind of goes hand in hand as far as what a player relies on when he gets older compared to when he's younger. But look, Ben's a great challenge, and he's got great weapons to throw the ball to. So we've got, like I said, we got quite the task in front of us to defend them. All good?
Calvin?
I'm sorry. Mike, how do you draw that balance for your players to talk to you about making changes in your scheme, but also wanting to stay true to the scheme? You know what I'm saying? Like, you want your players to have a voice and talk about things, but you also want them to be respectful for what you're trying to do defensively. How do you draw that balance?
Look, I've learned more football from players than I've learned from anyone over the years. I've been in coaching nearly 40 years, and and 33 in the NFL. So I will just say that over the years, I've been fortunate to coach a lot of very good players, a lot of Hall of Fame players, to be honest with you, and I've learned so much from all of them. So when I think of scheme, I don't think of Mike Nolan's scheme or anything like that. I really would like to think that it's kind of an accumulation of a lot of people I've worked with, a lot of players I've worked with. Look, I think that probably the player that taught me the most as far as linebacker play would be Ray Lewis and even Lawrence Taylor. I was fortunate to coach both of those guys. So it's the same thing here. When you coach good players or players that kind of know their game, you always want to listen because players aren't all the same. You know, to do what you did with Ray, to do that with the next guy you coach, there's little pieces you can kind of bring with you and teach to the guy you have, but the new guy you coach is going to have a new set of skills, and he's going to be different than the last guy you coach. So it's always been my way, I guess you could say, that I do listen to players. Now, you have to have a foundation on what you do, and you got to start someplace before you ever know what your players can or cannot do. I think that's really critical. But look, throughout the NFL, there's a lot of things that everyone does, and I pretty much would say that's where we start. The biggest challenge early, in my opinion, is the language. Everybody's got their own little language, and I think the simpler you make your language, the quicker guys can apply what they already know to what they're going to do. So I really, like I said, I've listened to him now. I listened to him when we got here, and I'll continue listening going forward. And I think the little things that we're doing each week with little tweaks here and there, a lot of them coming from the players, some of them coming from just the other coaches, some just coming from the maturity of practicing together. But it's all with the intent that we do the things that we need to do to win a game.
We talk a lot about your pass rushers. The last couple of weeks, have your interior players, participated in the line? I know you got some young guys there. You guys got rid of Pope. How have your young guys have played in the line?
I think they've done a decent job. The one that has probably been most consistent as of late has been Woods. Antoine's done a real good job in the run situation. He played a little bit on the pass, but not as much. Our pass group is more of a mature group, I would say. We've got more maturity in that third down group and pass rush group, so we wouldn't be talking about young players there so much. I know Randy got in there some, and I don't know if you call Randy a young guy or an old guy. He's kind of a little bit of both because he's been out of it just like Alden the same way. He's been out of it so long. And getting back in the swing, look, when you're out of football for 4 and 5 years, which each one of those guys has been, there's a little bit of a challenge to get back in the swing of it. It's not that easy. So, but I think they've done a good job. They've gotten a little bit better each week, and hopefully we continue to get better this week because it'll be a different kind of challenge with Ben.
Tyrone Crawford is in the 9th year of his NFL career. His body has been through it during that period. Injury, surgeries, his hips last season. On Sunday, he played a season high 44 snaps. How do you be realistic about where he is physically and get the best out of him?
Well, I would say that's a little high on what he needs to take, to be honest with you. As far as reps, I think he got a few more than we would like him to have had. But we probably we try and use him a little bit more in some pass rush situations. I think that's a little bit more of his game, a little bit more of what he gives us at this time. Look, he'd be the first one to tell you that his body, you play that long and you play in the defensive line, your body's gonna have some soreness from different things along the way. But he, I think he's done a good job. He gives us a ton of leadership, and his work ethic, what he demands of the guys around him, not only himself, does help us in the transition of trying to build a good defense. So he's got a value in a lot of areas.
What sort of first impression has Eli Ankou made, and what is a realistic timeline for him to make his team debut?
That's a great question. We'll have those discussions today and tomorrow to see, how far along he has come. He's a big, strong man that I think is going to give us some depth on the inside, and I'm hopeful that he's able to contribute sooner than later.
Rihanna?
All good?
We have 2 more.
2 more? All righty.
Thank you.
Nope.
Hey. Oh, sorry, someone.
That's all right.
Hey, Coach,
Yes, sir.
just to clarify, is Leighton calling the defense, or is it Jalen, or how y'all doing that?
Jalen assumed the roles when Leighton went out, and we just left it as it is for right now, because there's a couple packages that Leighton is coming out on, just small packages of things. But right now, Jalen has continued to wear the mic.
Okay, all right, thank you.